mean, you've got the Dow up now 106 points, the S&P gaining as well, and all it needs is 3 points, and here we are, S&P up about 22 points at the moment. We are climbing and climbing.
You've got the stock market continuing to hit record highs. You've got wages up. You've got unemployment down to record lows. You've got unprecedented GDP growth right now. So, of course, Donald Trump is raging at that. And Donald Trump is trying to take credit for that, saying that the reason that the economy is doing great, the reason the stock market is doing great, the malignant narcissist says it's because of him. How pathetic can you be? In addition to claiming that he's responsible for the economy right now, Donald Trump is attacking a bipartisan border deal where far right-wing conservatives in the Senate and Democrats are trying to come together to come up with a deal, the same type of deal that couldn't be achieved when Trump was in office. The Democrats and Republicans now achieve that deal. President Biden says, let's do this deal to address the border. And Donald Trump says, nope, that's a Democrat bill. Blow it up, MAGA Mike Johnson, and let us just whine about it and cry about it. Let's do our MAGA thing and just complain. So here's Donald Trump trying to take credit for the stock market. He goes all in caps because this is how he writes. I mean, this is like someone who's just so utterly unhinged. He goes, this is the Trump stock market because my polls against Biden are so good that investors are projecting that I will win and that will drive the market up. Everything else is terrible. Watch the Middle East, and record-setting inflation has already taken its toll. Make America great again! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Now, we want to talk about where inflation came from and who were reckless spenders. Let's just listen to what Nikki Haley has to say, that it was Republicans and Donald Trump who created somewhere between $8 to $9 trillion in debt, and they engaged in conduct. And by the way, Donald Trump's failed trade war with China, the tariffs were inflationary. Donald Trump created the conditions for inflation, and now President Biden has inflation in America, the lowest of any G7 nation. America is doing the best in the world. Let me play you this clip, though, of Nikki Haley criticizing Donald Trump. Play this clip.
Maybe it's fair, maybe it's not. I don't know. But what I do know is all that time that he's spending in a courtroom defending himself, he's not fighting for the American people. Like he did on election night in New Hampshire, like he's done on his Twitter feed since he got the verdict. He has not once talked about the fact that he put us $8 trillion in debt in 4 years that our kids are never going to forgive him for.
And by the way, here's yet another clip from a Fox guest praising the state of our economy, and Donald Trump can't handle it. He wants to crash our economy. That's what he's rooting for. He said he wants to harm the economy because he thinks it will benefit him in the election. That's who's running the Republican Party right now. Here, play this clip of the guest on Fox. Let's play it.
Yeah, the U.S. economy definitely remains on strong footing. We got that GDP report last week. U.S. economic growth expanded 2.5% in all of 2023. We know that the unemployment rate is at generational lows at 3.7%.
Then, of course, Donald Trump is attacking a border bill because he believes that will be a winning issue for him and MAGA to whine about. So here's what he says right here. He goes, a border bill is not necessary to stop the millions of people, many from jails and mental institutions located all over the world, that are pouring into our country. It is an invasion, the likes of which no country has ever had to endure. It is not sustainable or affordable and will, under crooked Joe Biden, get worse. I had the safest, most secure border in the U.S. history. I don't need a bill. They are using this horrific Senate as a way of being able to put the border disaster onto the shoulders of Republicans. The Democrats broke the border and they need to fix it. No legislation is needed. It's already there. As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, says, if this is true, then why did Donald Trump request the same things from Congress that are in this bill? A bill that he has never read, but is against. And by the way, our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, also points out there were over 1.3 million border crossings during the last year of the Trump administration pre-COVID. MAGA Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, says he won't do a deal on the border unless there are zero. Also, it should be noted that the Biden administration is deporting more than Donald Trump ever did. Those are just the facts. And I know MAGA Republicans want to create this cosplay fantasy fan fiction of what took place during the Trump administration. But the facts are there were over 1.3 million border crossings. And by the way, President Biden, working with reasonable Republicans and Democrats, are trying to address the situation. Here, let me just show you. This is Oklahoma Senator James Lankford. Okay, you don't get more kind of right-wing than James Lankford, who's negotiating a deal with Sinema and Schumer and a number of other senators. They've created a bipartisan deal that would expedite adjudication of asylum seekers, would actually shut down the border after a certain threshold amount. It's the toughest border law that's like almost ever been conceived. It's almost so tough that there's criticisms there. But after giving the MAGA Republicans and Trump what they claim they want, their bluff's been called because they just want to whine about the issue. Here's Oklahoma Senator James Lankford on Fox, when Fox is like, well, why are you giving Biden campaign a win here? A win? Who views things through that prism? Play this clip.
That are not being enforced. So why give him this in an election year, the cover of this deal that, you know, critics say is still going to let a lot of people in, but he gets to take a victory lap that he's gotten something done.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not going to let a bunch of people in. It's focused on actually turning people around on it. It is interesting. Republicans 4 months ago would not give funding for Ukraine, for Israel, and for our southern border because we demanded changes in policy. So we actually locked arms together and said, we're not going to give you money for this. We want a change in law. And now it's interesting, a few months later, when we're finally getting to the end, they're like, oh, just kidding. I actually don't want a change in law because it's a presidential election year. We all have an oath to the Constitution, and we have a commitment to say we're going to do whatever we can to be able to secure the border. Just as a quick, for instance, the last 4 months, we've had 50 people cross our border on the terror watch list. 50. We've had tens of thousands of people that were declared by this administration a national security risk that came across our border and were released. It is our constitutional obligation to be able to secure our country as fast as we can secure our country. This puts in mandatory pieces that haven't been there in the past to make this administration actually enforce the law. I would tell you that I don't know of anyone that believes that if President Trump was elected, well, he was president right now, this border would not have this problem. So the thought that somehow President Biden can suddenly be the pro-national security president in the final months of this is...
Here is a clip of Mitt Romney also saying that it is Donald Trump who wants to stop us from making a border deal to address the border, which I thought this is what we wanted. I mean, President Biden and Democrats have come to the table and they want to do a deal on border and Ukraine, and now we don't want to do it. I wonder why. Because Donald Trump wants to cause harm to our country, and his coffee boy, MAGA Mike Johnson, and others are doing his bidding. Here, play this clip.
Oh, I think the border is a very important issue for Donald Trump, and the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and Congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling. But the reality is that we have a crisis at the border. The American people are suffering as a result of what's happening at the border, and someone running for president ought to try and get the problem solved, as opposed to saying, "Hey, save that problem. Don't solve it. Let me take credit for solving it later."
By the way, here's Democratic Congressmember Jim McGovern. And here he's basically saying, what are we doing here? You don't want, he's speaking to a MAGA Republican over here, Tom McClintock. And he's like, what is even going on here? Here, play this clip.
Mr. McGovern.
Well, I'm just a little confused by that last statement. You say this is not going to be fixed with laws.
What the hell are we doing here then?
We are laying the foundation for an administration that will enforce these laws and strengthening their hand
who's been indicted
strengthening their hand to do
indicted 4
so.
times on 91 felony counts?
I can't foresee the future, but I can
I
tell
mean,
you this.
the guy who just has been forced to pay $85 million for defaming a woman he sexually abused. I mean, that's who you. I mean, come on. I mean.
Oh, I got to play this other clip here of Democratic Congressmember Jim McGovern from this same hearing. Here, play this clip.
He said, and I quote, immigrants. He didn't distinguish between legal immigrants or undocumented immigrants. He said immigrants poison the blood of our country. Would you agree that that's an offensive thing for?
If that's what he actually
That's what he
said in
said.
the context that he said
He
it.
did.
But I
And you
found
know who
over
said
the
that?
years, I found over the
And
years
Hitler
that how
said,
he's,
that's a quote from Adolf Hitler as
what
well.
I found over the years is what he says and what he is quoted as saying are two very different things. So
okay.
I'd be
All right.
very
Yeah.
skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, it's on. I mean, it's like the lang. I get I get the fact that everybody's on the Republican side's afraid of him. But I mean, the lengths that people
I'm not
go,
afraid of him.
the lengths that people go to defend the indefensible. But let me go into a different subject here.
I love that. By the way, here is what MAGA Mike Johnson said. He goes, any border shutdown, and he puts that in quotes, authority that allows even one illegal crossing is a non-starter. Thousands each day is outrageous. The number must be 0. Well, under Donald Trump, it was more than Biden. Like, I know we want to create this fan fiction, but under Donald Trump, there were 1.3 million border crossings during the last year of the Trump administration, okay? And to be clear, when I say more than Biden administration deporting more than Donald Trump ever deported. And so you're now creating a standard that's what, impossible to meet, so you can just blow up a bipartisan deal on behalf of Donald Trump? No, you just want to whine about it. Because here's what MAGA Mike Johnson said after. Earlier today, I had a productive phone call with Governor Abbott from Texas to discuss the ongoing crisis at the border. Both Texas and the federal government have a responsibility to protect the health and safety of their people. The Biden administration has failed to do so. While we fight for the federal government to do its job, the House expects that the Biden administration will not interfere as Texas fulfills its responsibilities. Newsflash. It's not the Biden administration. The United States Supreme Court, which has 6 right-wing justices and 3 justices appointed by Democratic administrations, made a 5-4 decision saying that what Governor Abbott was doing was inappropriate. You had 2 right-wing justices, Justice Roberts, and you had Amy Coney Barrett join with the 3 Democrats to say a state can't take away the rights of the federal government. So it's actually the Supreme Court, but I guess MAGA Republicans are the party of lawlessness. So when the Supreme Court rules against them, they just don't follow the Supreme Court. And what they're looking to do in Texas is to create some PR stunt. What they're trying to have happen is have the federal government nationalize the National Guard so they can pull a Trump and just whine about it over and over again, because that's all Trump wants to do. And Trump is saying that in these posts. A border bill's not necessary, he's saying. Here he goes. I don't need a big, complex, Democrat-oriented border. But what the hell are you talking about? A Democrat-oriented border bill, which will make Republicans look bad? I just closed the border and had by far the safest border in the history of our country. I mean, number one, no, you didn't. That didn't happen while you were in office, although I know your fan fiction MAGA fans want to think of you as those ridiculous photos on those NFT cards of yours. But this is a bipartisan bill, not a Democrat bill. But for Trump, if it's not a Trump thing, it's a Democrat thing, and you're a rhino. He is a cancer and curse on our country in every aspect, wants to cause us all harm over and over again. By the way, I think Morning Joe said it best, that seldom do you have a party that is as stupid as the Republican Party has become with this MAGA takeover. Here, play this clip of Joe Scarborough.
Seldom do you have parties as stupid as this current Republican Party led by Donald Trump. You now have Donald Trump rooting. We saw what Larry Kudlow said. We see what the editor emeritus of the Wall Street Journal editorial page has said. The U.S. economy is the winner of 2023. It has stormed into 2024, doing better than any economy in the world, major economy in the world, and just crushing China right now. And yet you have Republicans wanting to do two things. One, Donald Trump has said he wants the economy to crash. He wants a depression to come. He wants Joe Biden to be Herbert Hoover. He wants people's livelihoods and their retirements destroyed. He said it to Lou Dobbs so he can be elected president of the United States.
Also, here's Gavin Newsom on the Alex Wagner show. Take a look at what Newsom had to say. Play the clip.
But I really believe this. He is weakness masquerading as strength, Donald Trump in general. In a primary, I've said it, he's a T-Rex. He'll devour you or you mate with him. Can't be beaten in a primary. But in a general election, I think he's the most flawed candidate in my lifetime. He is damaged goods. He is not as entertaining as he once was. He's more unhinged than he ever was, more extreme, obviously more dangerous across the spectrum of issues.
In addition, you have Donald Trump attacking Sean Fain, the president of the United Auto Workers Union, the UAW, attacking unions, saying Sean Wayne is a weapon of mass destruction on auto workers and automobile manufacturing industry in the United States. That's coming from a scab right there. Donald Trump, who's done more things to hurt unions and hurt workers over and over again, attacking the president of the United Auto Workers Union, where President Biden stood on the picket lines with workers and renegotiated the highest raises in generations for workers. And President Biden's done that over and over and over again. You have to understand that there's more attacks on Sean Fain here as well. You have to understand and view things through the prism of this. That Donald Trump will say and do whatever it is he thinks is necessary for himself, not this country. And he's an idiot, and he's a dangerous idiot at that, who's bankrupted and lost everything in his life. He's not a builder. He is a destroyer of things, bankrupting every company and then grifting off his marks in the process. And he's found a great and willing mark in these MAGA supporters of his, but we should be smarter than that as a country and call out his behavior. Finally, I'll leave you with this Carl Quintanilla post. S&P closed above 4,900 for the first time ever. S&P and Dow, 6th record close. NASDAQ 100, 7th record close. S&P hit a new intraday all-time high. The Dow hit a new intraday all-time high, folks. That's what's going on, and that is infuriating Donald Trump. Let's get together, country. I hope you enjoyed that interview I did with Asa Hutchinson, who, by the way, he and I disagree with on a lot. I just want to facilitate democracy and normalcy here. That's what this channel is all about, so I hope you appreciated that one as well. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million, 3 million. Past 2 million, 3 million subscribers thanks to your support. Thanks for watching and have an excellent day.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.